Okay. Another tool is polyline. So working in lines, in this case, it creates separate lines, but when you have a polyline, it's nice because it's a connected entity, so it's easier to edit. So in this case, you click, and you can keep on clicking until you close it, and I hit enter. And then when you select it, then you have grips. So you can pull these grips like that, and you click. And if you imagine you have a building behind this, then it's kind of easy to manipulate it to what you need. Okay, another tool here, so you have your ortho mode, and here we have a snap cursor. So if you right click on here, these are kind of like all different things that you can snap to. So the endpoint of certain things, midpoint, center. So this helps when you're drawing stuff and you want things to be perpendicular to each other or parallel. So this is a tool that you want to click on and off when you will be doing this, because there's certain times where you don't want to snap. You just kind of want to do a free line. And so if you want to delete a line, you hit E for erase. Okay, and then some other basic stuff. So there is enter. So there's tools like offset. So you type in offset, and then you specify an offset distance. So let's say, since we're really far away right now, 20 meters. So you click it, and then it will offset on either side. So this is a really nice tool if you want to say, if you're doing like a road and you want to have a sidewalk, then you can create something that's really perpendicular to your shape. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a straight line. You can do it with circles and stuff like that as well. So you can see circles here, arcs. So there's different way of making arcs. We have 3 points, so you can do start at the center, or start, center, end. And it depends what you'll be tracing or how you want to make stuff. We won't be using arcs too much in our exercise, but it's just good to see. So click, 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 hit enter, and then you have your arc. Okay, so let's see here. One thing also is layers. So you have different layers in AutoCAD, and it's a good way to differentiate between different things, but also when you're printing, it gives the power to have different line weights. So say your building's going to have a thicker line weight than, say, the contours. So you want to have a way to isolate those things. And it's also nice if you want to take away information and add it in. It's always good to have a good organized drawing. So in this case, I'm going to provide this file for you so you guys have like a basic setup of, say, what is this, basically 10 layers. And these are varying line weights. So say from 1 is the lightest, and 6 is going to be the heaviest, where 9 is more of a light hatching, so that's a gray tone. And then 254 is a light line as well. That would be for your contours. And these are things you can work with Roger as far as representation, how light they are, how thick they need to be. But I'll provide a CTB file, which I'll get into later when you're plotting what that means. Okay, so what we need to do for our exercise is to insert a JPEG. So you guys have a JPEG of Lunenburg. I think it's at 1 to 2000. So it's a matter of getting it into this file and then scaling it and then rotating it to a proper scale. So here, if you go into insert, you can see there's insert, and you insert CAD file or a block. In our case, we want to attach a file, like a JPEG, raster images. Okay, so all our files are on the desktop. So we open this JPEG, and then when you import it, it's going to give you this box here, kind of how to import it. So one thing that's good practice is to import it at 000, because you can find that easily. So I would take that off. And another thing too, not always do you know what scale it's going to come in at, and sometimes it comes in tiny or massive. So usually I click this off and then I'll find it. But it's up to you guys. You can do it either way. So it's imported, so that means that it's in here, just really small. And sometimes when you zoom, it has limits. So one thing you can do is you type regen, and that's regenerate the graphics. So regen, and if once you do that, then you can keep on zooming in here. So as you can see, it's really tiny. So we're gonna have to scale this up, definitely. And so this JPEG that is on Anita's folder has a scale on it, and that's all you need to scale this drawing. So now that you're the JPEG, a good practice is to change its layer. So currently, it is on the image layer. So what the image layer, it's good to have your images on a separate layer, because when you're going to export that for a print, you want to keep that thing out, or it's a good way just to isolate it when you have it. So click it, and it's also good to change the transparency, because it's really hard to see your cursor right now. So there's a fade tool. So I always bump it down so you can actually see what you're doing. So the way you can scale it is you put a line here, and then you can get an idea for how much you have to scale it. So here you can see 0.005 or 0.5, and we need it to be 100. So currently it's in, this file's in millimeters, and these are meters. So everything's going to be up 1,000. So we scale this. Let's just try. So scale, you type in scale, or there's also on the ribbon. Everything's on the ribbon as well. You see scale, but again, it's good practice to have the typing. So scale, so select objects. So it asks to specify base point, so you click, and then it's going to scale here. So I'm going to type in 200, and we'll see where that gets us. Let's type in line. And there's no way to get it precise with a JPEG, because the lines themselves are actually going to be about 1 meter thick. So you're going to get a pretty good ballpark, but it's never going to be 100% accurate. So you can see here that we are needing to scale this by 10 times more, roughly. So scale. And then we'll do 10. Okay, and so we should be close. So one way to get it a little bit more precise, so again, we'll draw a line and try to get as big a dimension as you can. The bigger dimension, the more accurate it will be. So we have 300 meters we could do. So I'm going to type 300. So you can see we're a little bit short. So what we can do is we do the scale tool again. Scale, but this time there's a button or a command called reference. So you type in R. Oh, whoops, sorry. You gotta specify the base point first. So this is when the snap comes into play. Like you're trying to click this line, but you can't. But when you have the snap on, then you can, because you can select an endpoint. So I can specify the base point, and then this is when you type in R. You click here again. And then you click the image at the line you want. And then you go to the 300. And so that allows you to be a bit more accurate, or as accurate as possible in this case. And then it's always good to go into the drawing just to like double check that it makes sense, how big it is. So you know, a 10-meter road makes sense. Okay, and so the next step would be to rotate this. It's going to be kind of difficult to draw, or it's going to be kind of annoying to be drawing on a skew for everything. So it'd be good to rotate this to be working on 90s if you can. So a way to do that is find an area that looks relatively straight. So in this case, maybe King Street. Click here. So it's relatively straight along there. And then what we need to do is rotate. So again, you have to, whenever you want to select the image, also you have to zoom out because it's on the like the constraints of it. So then we go rotate, RO, specify base point. So we'll click that on. And again, we're going to be doing the command reference. So R. Then we can click this point and this point. And then we want it to be 90. So we click the ortho mode. And it straightens it out. And then you can just delete that line.
That line can be kept for a north arrow.
Yeah, that's very true, yeah. Is there one here? Yeah. Okay, yeah. And if you have the north arrow, that would be better even. But yeah, you'd prefer them to work like this, right? To have when they're, yeah, okay. Okay, so the next step, once you have it straight like this, would be to trace, find your area, wherever that is. There's also this rectangle tool here if it's easier. So you can say if it's that. So basically what you will be doing is you need to trace everything in this area. So let's start using layers here. So to change a layer of something, you can just click it, have it selected, and then change it to whatever you want. Line weights? They represent line weights, they will, but like the layers have line weights dedicated to them. And that'll make more sense when we're printing. Yeah, if you guys have any questions while we're going, feel free.
Can you see the thickness of your lines right now?
No. So when you're in AutoCAD, it's the way to differentiate between your layers is by colors, but it's not going to be like the thicknesses of your lines until you start printing. So that's when you'll find out how.
Can you look at it before you print it?
Well, you'll plot it. So it's really just you go into sheet space mode, and then you can do a preview print, and then you can get an idea. But you're basically printing a PDF. That's the only way you can actually check. Yeah. Okay, so the best way to say trace one of these forms, I would say, would be a polyline. So the benefits of a polyline, like I said, is that it's all connected rather than having to push and pull lines around. So polyline, you click it there. You could probably take that for now. And again, it's not going to be super precise in some cases because it's this line itself is quite thick. So just do as best you can to get it in the middle. And when there are straight areas like this, I would put on ortho mode just for sake of having it at a 90.
Jacob, is there a command to switching that on and off, or do you have to go and click it on and off?
The ortho?
No, from poly to ortho. And clicking down there,
It says right here F8.
okay.
I typically just click it just because it's right there, but it's honestly people like have their own workflows and doing certain things. You can do that if you like. Okay. So for sake of being quick, I'll just simplify this. And so turn on snaps once you want to close it. And now you have a closed form, and then hit enter. So now you have a building footprint. And so you can change that layer. So let's say that's 3. So the next thing we need to do is contours. So the lines for the roads you can do kind of with the same concept. For the contours themselves, you have curves in there, so you're going to want to use a spline tool. And so what this is allows you to kind of get a best fitted curve for it. So type in spline. And so you have your contours here, so you can start outside of here, and you basically just click along it, and it's going to generate a curve. And you don't have to worry going through stuff yet because you can just trim it after. And so once you're outside of your border, you just hit enter, and then you have your line. And if you want to edit this line after, so there's a trim tool. So that allows you to cut your line with other lines. So type trim, hit what you want to cut with, you hit enter, and then you can see it will delete. And so now you have your contour here. So again, you can draw in your layer or you can switch it, either or. And then once you have it all kind of done up, then we're going to be able to bring this into sheet space, and from there we're going to be able to make a print from it. So there's two kind of view modes in AutoCAD. So we've been working in model space currently, and there's also a sheet space here. So what the sheet space is kind of when you're printing a file, you have a sheet here, and then you're going to have the file here, and then from there you're going to generate a drawing. You can print directly from AutoCAD, but more than likely you guys are going to be making PDFs that will be printed off on a computer or otherwhere. Okay. So your paper space has a scale to it. So this current one is at 1 to 200, and from what I understand, that's what they want, Roger? 1 to 200 or? 1 to 100?
Is it 100 or 200?
100, okay. So what you have here are your different scales. So you can create your own if you'd like, if the one you want isn't there. So you can scroll down, and then from here you can go custom. And so say if 1 to 100 wasn't there, then we'd go we'll add or edit. So let's just say we're adding. So then you can name it whatever you'd like. and then 1 paper unit equals 100 drawing units. So in this case, let me click 1 to 100. Oops. And sometimes it's a little finicky. So once you get it to where you want it, you can center it, and then always lock it, because sometimes you'll do stuff and then it gets all messed up. Okay, so so the question about the line weights and the layers, this is when it comes into play. So all these different colors have a dedicated line weight to them, so they have a certain thickness. So when you're printing, you have to put a file to it that would allow it to read that information. So in this case, we type in plot. Okay, all right. And then so we have our CTB file. So the CTB file is that file that allows you to have the different line weights. So in your case, you guys won't have this CTB file. So I'm going to give you guys this AutoCAD file and then also a CTB file. So it should be easy, hopefully. There'll be a few things you might have to work with Roger with as far as representation of line weights, but I'll show you guys how to edit that as well. So if you guys were to add in a CTB file, you come up here and click Edit. And then, so you're going to have, what it's going to be in here is a bunch of different ones that aren't, Daltech team. It's going to say grayscale. So the way to add it in is just hit grayscale or any one of them, edit, save as, and then you have to find where this file path is, because you're basically just going to be dropping a CTB file in this folder, and then it will automatically populate itself in AutoCAD. So what you do is highlight that, and then just Control-C or copy, and then just get out of here. Close that down. And so the file that I'll be sending to you will be Daltech team. I'll give you a half size. So if you're printing on 11 by 17, it scales down your line weights to be not as thick. And then if you're printing full size, 1 to 100, I would use the full one. So just open up another folder. Oh, here we go. And then basically just copy and paste in that file path. And so here are all of your CTB files. And then all you would do in this case is select the two and drag them in. And they'll be there on your computer permanently. So if you're going to be using the CTB file moving forward, then you'll always have it there.
What does CTB mean?
I don't know what it represents. So.
So what is a CTB file?
A CTB file is basically a file that says red is this thickness of line weight. So you can actually see all that once you click them. So let's just click this guy here, table view. And so here is all the information of the CTB file. So you can see there's a ton of layers, but the colors of our layers are the same. So color 1 is red in our file, and it's saying that that line thickness is 1.7. Color 2 or 0.17, 0.21, and so on and so forth. So you can see here that we have until, say 6 of line thicknesses. So if you're going to do, like, say, a ground line, then you're going to be maybe using that. If you're going to do just like a basic, like a detail line, then you're maybe going to be using red. But again, work with Roger to get these kind of more nailed down. And you guys can edit them pretty easily just in here. And it's a matter of just playing around with these. And it's a matter of trial and error. Some people like certain ways for different things. So, yeah. So once you have that in, then type plot again. So from here, you're able to kind of see all the preferences or settings for it. So again, if you're going to be printing from this file, everything should be relatively set up. And it's also good, if you guys have your own files, it's good to just maybe refer back to this file just for settings, because it will take a while to go through all the different ways, I guess, setting things up. But yeah. And then so from here, you have to select a plotter. So it's printing from no plotter right now. I haven't printed from James' computer, so I'm not entirely sure which is the best one. Oh, there's, okay, there you go. Adobe PDF, okay. So yeah, Adobe PDF, because again, you're not going to be printing to a printer, you're going to be printing to a PDF and then to a printer. So from here, you're able to preview your file, or you can hit OK, either or. Preview, okay. So you can see that the hatch pattern is way too thick. So in this case, I didn't change the CTB for 254. So let's go in and edit that. I'll edit it before I send it to you guys. So let's go to 254. So currently that's why it's black, and we don't want it to be black. Oh, is that 254? What layer is that? Let me just double check what layer that is. 254. Should be good, but and it could just be that we're doing the Adobe PDF. Let's try that one. No, okay. I'll have to figure that line out. But the file that I sent you guys, that hatch will be fine. It will print good. Yeah. Okay. So for now, let's just delete that. Yeah.
Is it actually a hatch or is it a tone? You know?
It should be a hatch, yeah. Yeah. Okay. But in any case, let's just plot these lines, and you'll be able to tell the difference between those as well. So here you can see, oh, damn, are these even printing? You can see here, we don't have like a bunch of different line weights here, but you can see that this line is thicker than that line. So you're able to play around with the line thicknesses there, and then you can populate your drawing to have a bit more detail to it. So for your contour lines as well, you're probably going to want to make those a little softer, I would imagine. So again, you go into the CTB file and you can edit them there. Yeah. Okay. I think that's basically it. But I'll edit the CTB file and the AutoCAD file, and then you guys will be able to import your JPEG and do all those steps. And again, I'll be around for this, and Rachel will be around if you guys need any help with it. Yeah.
And just to address a couple of points, I think for this assignment, this axiometric, the line weights are not going to be complex at all. If you draw it all in one line weight to start with, I think that's fine. But as we move into Rhino and then into Maxwell, that might change. But I think just moving it forward, use one line weight or one line style. That's one point, just to nip that in the bud. The other thing, when you're drawing your contours, I might add additional contours between the ones that are drawn, so that you can ultimately end up with, instead of a stepped thing, you can imagine a smooth kind of thing.
Yeah, and one way you could do that maybe is even doing an offset. Maybe Oh, it's way too far.
I think you'll want the contour lines to be continuous to
You want them to be continuous?
well, not in terms of the graphics of this, but bringing it into the drawing evolution.
Okay. All right. So then, if you guys want, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because what the next step you guys will be doing, and Rachel will be doing this tutorial, is generating a 3D model. So, yeah, in that case, yeah, you need to have solid contours running through your building. So, if you guys are going to do a print and you don't want your contours running through your building, maybe you can do 2 contour layers. So one with cuts, and maybe the other ones you just have them solid lines. And then from there, you're able to generate a topography in Rhino in a 3D space.
And for the contour, I would say instead of offsetting it, you want to probably draw another one. So pick a midpoint between these two,
Yeah.
and then come into a midpoint there, and then a midpoint between those two. So that's not, it's not an offset. It's an approximation between those. While I'm looking at this, also I think the general scope for your drawing will include that building. Just so this would include a bit of that building, and probably a bit of that building, right? And maybe these could move in a bit. So you just want to get the faces of those. Yeah, question?
Question around you touched on later on, but does it see a line there with 3 segments the same way you see the single line?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Does Rhino see a line that's made up of 3 segments that's the same as the single line? Or those 3 points that affecting the line?
Are you saying like a polyline? If there's 3 different points, so say if you want to like push and pull it,
Yeah.
like.
The 3 broken lines that make one line.
Okay, like so, are you saying, so if we did like a polyline, and they're all straight?
No, 3 separate line segments.
Well, so if they're 3 separate lines, then there are going to be 3 separate lines, I guess. Like, if you do a polyline, they're attached, right? So you can manipulate them like that. Does that answer your question? No.
I think
Okay.
Another question back here.
I have 2. The first is, how do you make sure that you're doing things on different layers that can mess up?
So if you want to work on a layer, you.
So those layers are like kind of pre-made, and then you just go to layer 2, and you're on layer 2.
Yeah, so again, I've made these layers. So if you guys want to make your own layer, so type in layer. Oh. Oh, it's over here, my other desktop. Here we go. So you type in layer, and so it's just basically a bigger version of this. So here you're able to create new ones if you'd like. So how you do that, new layer. And then from there you're able to name it, put a color to it. And so that color is what's going to reference to the CTV file. But in your guys' case, I've just created it, but moving forward, you guys will kind of get an idea how to modify that file perhaps and get it to what you want it to be.
Okay, and then my second question is for the contour lines. You said to use the line tool, and you used it as if it was a polyline tool?
Yeah, it's called a spline tool. So basically, it's a polyline tool, but it basically interpolates points. So you
Is it an S part of that?
yeah, spline.
Oh, I wrote down line.
Yeah. So there's a polyline command. It's called p-line, and then there's a curve tool, which is spline, but it'd be like sp line basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you toggle the layers so they turn on or off?
Yes. Yeah. I'll show you how to do that. That's a good point. When we are printing, so you don't want to have this background in it. So yeah, you can turn on and off layers. So we have image layers. So here, these are the light bulbs. So turn a layer on and off. So hit that light bulb and it's off. So that's why it's good to have it organized, because then you can filter out information really easily.
Question over there, the third row.
Oh, that was it.
Okay.
Just how to get rid of the background but not the
Another tool I should have mentioned maybe is Hatch as well. So what that is it basically just takes, it has to be an enclosed geometry. So since this is a polyline and it's closed, so type in Hatch. And what that does is it brings up different tools. So you can do kind of a crosshatch. When you guys are doing more detailed drawings, it would be good for like, concrete hatch or insulation or anything like that. In our case, I don't know if you guys will be doing solid hatch of the buildings. Maybe, I don't know. So you basically just click inside and then you have your solid hatch. And then also you can select by layer. So you go home and then there you can choose. And you're likely not going to have it on a black line hatch because then it'll be really bold. You probably want to have it on a lighter layer. Is there any other questions? Okay.
About the availability of the video and such, do you have a destination for that yet?
James will be putting it on Brightspace. I think he usually puts it on there, but do you have a Brightspace for your class? No? Okay. If not,
Keep it with the help desk Brightspace for now.
okay, yeah. If not, we'll find a way to get it to you guys. And also, I'll send the files to Roger within the day, and then he can distribute those to you guys. And Rachel and my office hours, roughly, what works for you?
They're listed right now on the DASA website. So if you go into Dal Architecture under the current students tab, there's a list of a lot of associations. We're on there. And we have office hours, but I think they're listed during a time when all of you guys are in classes.
Okay.
So generally help desk is drop in as maybe to cover.
Yeah. You guys can just come by our desk, yeah. Or send us an email or anything like that.
But it's
Yeah.
probably